I'm curious to know whether, over time, it's been
Mm-hmm.
20 years,
Mm-hmm.
uh, there's been any sort of curiosity about, man, what would life have been like if I didn't leave? Like, how do you think about the fact that you've given all these valuable time of your life, to
To
the
this
US?
country.
Do you think that is stopping a lot of people that are outside of the country from actually saying something or at least being part of the conversation because they think about it like, hey, if I'm not home, I can't say anything. Do you think that's the case?
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think it's hard for some people to just pack up and leave? Family, family,
Okay.
right? You and I both, and you mentioned this in way in the beginning, where at home. So you have three other siblings.
Correct.
When you were leaving the Gambia for the US, were you the first one to travel away from home?
No, it was my older brother, Joe. Joe
Oh,
got
Joe
to
left
leave
before you.
first. Yeah.
Joe
Joe
left
left
before
before I
you.
did. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Joe left in 2001.
Right
Yeah.
around the same time because you left
Mm-hmm.
like a year later.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. So even with that, then opportunity came for you to travel. And we already talked about mindset. We already talked about our thought process as far as traveling and going to the US or Europe
Mm-hmm.
or just all these places that we deem have more opportunity than where we're from.
Mm-hmm.
And then you leave. For the most part, and most of us, if not all of us, every African, the concept there, the mindset there, the thought process there as you leave is all right, she's gone or he's gone. Now he'll be in a very good position to be able to help or to be able to give back to us or to be able to kind of like put us in a position that is slightly more advantageous.
Correct.
And so you already have that pressure,
Mm-hmm.
okay, or responsibility,
Mm-hmm.
or in some cases, burden,
Oh yeah.
right? And so here you are in the US and everybody else like that traveled and now you're working, you're beginning to make that dollar, that pound, that yen, whatever it is, right? And you're solving $100 problems, you're solving issues that are coming from home. It's a constant.
Mm-hmm.
You can't even budget that because it keeps happening.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you think that factors into that decision making that, hey, if I leave right now and go join them, this source that I am, this
Mm-hmm.
financial source, like
Mm-hmm.
this stream that I've been for all this time,
Mm-hmm.
will be cut off. How much does that factor in? And when I talk about this, yes, as you as an example,
Mm-hmm.
but people
Mm-hmm.
friends, and just even what the internet tells you. How much does this factor in?
It factors in a lot, especially for a country like Gambia, because I was just reading because I'm always into the whole researching thing and stuff. So I was
Yeah.
just reading as to somebody had posted as like how much money is remitted into Gambia on an
Yes.
annual basis. Like last year, it was like $0.7 billion
Yes.
into
Yes.
the country. So that tells you alone, like every other family has somebody that lives out abroad
Hmm.
helping to take care of them.
Hmm.
So, and again, that's where it gets tricky. For me personally, it's a little easier because now my sister lives here, my brother lives in Sweden, so we've always been able to, I'm not the only one in my family who's abroad. I mean, for the longest, my sister was there too, but she had a really, again, and that's why I said when it comes to success, it's just weird. She had a really great job,
Yes.
working in Gambia, and she was living a very, very, very nice life. So
Hmm.
for me, but for a lot of families, they're like their only like the hope. And again, that's where a double-edged sword comes in because you want to say it, but it's the truth sometimes hurt because the people back home, and I'm not saying all of them, get used to the fact that somebody is here sending them money. So they have no reason to get up and fight. They have no reason to get up and try to strive to have a better life for themselves because there is somebody out here who's sending them money every single month. So you know, and that person now over here, and that's why again a lot of people get stuck here, because now, you know, if you were to leave this job, now you're miserable here because you're working out, you know, I'm sure we'll touch on that, from sun up to sundown. You're here, you go to work, you come home, you barely get to spend time with your children. Some people have 3 to 4 jobs just to make ends meet, just to survive. But the people back home don't understand what the heck you have to go through over here to provide that extra $200 or $300 you are sending home for them every month, and they get comfortable. So here you are now, you want to go home. I want to go home. But I know if I go home, then these people that I'm taking care of have to figure out a way to, you know, to get life, or to live life, you know, without me providing money for them. So that guilt kills you, you know, and
Yes.
then that pressure from back home, maybe it's your parent, maybe it's your sibling, you know, and here you are, you just stuck year in and year. And you, all of us still have that hope. Okay, I just need to land this good job. I just need to land, you know, maybe get a promotion. You know, I just
Yes.
need to do this. And most of the time we do. But like I
Yes.
said, from where I started to where I'm at now,
Yes.
the amount of money, the difference
Yes.
in my paycheck,
Yes.
I mean, it's
It's
massive.
huge, but still the
But
same
still,
circumstance.
I'm in the same predicament because again,
Hmm.
you get stuck in that cycle. So
Hmm.
how do you decide that now, okay, you know what? F it. I'm just gonna go home. We all gonna live like that. We gonna all figure life out. And then you start getting resentment from people.
Yes. Yes,
So,
and that's the hard part, right? Like where you can have your plan, you can
mhm,
have your plan to go home, but you think about the fact that the world is just the world. Like whether it's the U.S., whether it's Gambia, whether it's the continent of Africa, that is you taking the risk, right?
mhm,
Leaving something that is sure because you're working and you're earning some money and you're helping, versus all right, I'm gonna take the little or the lot that I saved and then go home
mhm,
and live on that whilst I continue to support the number of people that I support. And our support, when we talk about support, we come from a place of community.
mhm,
The people you support, the people you help every now and then,
mhm,
it goes beyond your mom, dad, and siblings, right?
mhm,
We're talking about neighbors, we're talking about friends, we're talking about old classmates
mhm,
that are not friends anymore. You have to call it that. It's just
mhm,
the only relationship they're attaching themselves to in asking for some sort of help
mhm.
is the fact that you guys knew each other in the seventh grade.
Yeah.
And when somebody presents a problem, and I always call it this, right?
Mhm,
In Gambia, and for some, wherever they come from, you have friends and family that will present you with a predicament that they're facing, an issue that's
mhm,
going on, and they're not making it up. You can see it yourself.
mhm.
It's a problem, it's an
Yeah.
issue, right? And you're left with no choice, and I call it that. Maybe let
Mhm,
me talk for myself. You're left with no choice but to say this huge problem they're facing versus keeping this $100 with me, to end up buying like 10 coffees from Starbucks, right?
mhm,
And you end up just giving it to them and say, forget Starbucks for a month. And this keeps happening because multiple people.
mhm,
So when you leave a situation like that to join them at home and say no every single time that comes up because you don't want to risk it too much,
mhm.
that additional pressure has to weigh you down as far as
It
like,
does.
you know, being able to like decide to be home,
And that's where
and
selfishness comes in, Mike, because at the end of the day, we all have only one life to live. And I've
right.
seen a lot of people here, you know, Africans that have been in this country for 20, 30, 40 years, and they have
Mhm.
nothing to show for it. And then most people say, you know what, I'm just going to work hard and retire at 65. Most of us know that a lot of us will not even make it, you know, to 65. So you catch yourself in this cycle and you get stuck. You get stuck in this cycle and you have to get to a point to say, okay, how is this worth it? Because let me tell you, whenever I go to Gambia in December and you see how these people are living, And you know
Yes.
for a fact, everybody is walking around with an iPhone 13, iPhone 14 Pro Max. And
And yeah,
you yourself
you have
living
your
in the States can
Android too.
I'm here with
Yeah.
my Android. You your fact can't even afford
Yeah.
to live this type of life. And these people are back there living their life off of your income.
Mm.
And you get to suffer. You don't get to go to no parties. If you see your friends, is like once every 6 months or a year if you're lucky. You're
Yeah.
busy working hard.
You
And then
have
you
to.
go home and you see these girls in their Brazilian wigs and these, you know, everybody out there and designers living their best life. And you start questioning your own life. Like, is
Yeah.
how did I end up
Questioning
being
your
the
own life.
person
Yeah. Who is
that
this
have to
source of
go make
yeah.
sure I buy at a discount store just to survive? And these people are out here living their best life. And again, I'm not saying it's all of them, but you see the
Yes.
difference
Of course.
because these people cannot afford
Yeah.
these lifestyles that they're living. But we are the ones giving them that lifestyle. So now you
Yeah.
get to decide, is this how I want to live for the rest of my life?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be selfish and say, you know what? If you need help, I'm going to help you, but I'm gonna help you figure out a way to survive. I'm not going to support your life. If it's adults, grandparents, parents, that's understandable. Is If it's for younger kids, that's understandable. But if you're out here helping grown adults who can figure their lives out, I mean, at that point,
Uh,
it's on you. So you have to get selfish and say, you know what? If there's any way or any chance that I'm going to have to enjoy this little time that I have on this earth, I'm going to
mm.
have to start, making some sacrifices and looking out for me. It's a
Uh,
tough pill to swallow,
yeah.
but that's the only way some of us can actually get out and live.
And let's make this clear. So, by us touching on this point, the way we are, if anybody thinks is being insensitive, it's just true. We're just mentioning something that we know, it's just evident. The truth about, and we can talk on Gambia because we know Gambia more than anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a lot of African friends that have the same story.
Mm-hmm.
My wife is from Zimbabwe, so I happen to know, the west side and a little bit of the southern side of Africa because of that, and
Mm-hmm.
so the story is the same. I was fortunate enough to visit Zimbabwe in last September, a couple of months ago, and if not even worse because of the political situation there. Money, the dependence on money coming from outside, it's just evident everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the evidence in Gambia last I visited, and or the previous times that I visited, because you and I, we're old enough to remember when we were in middle school,
Mm-hmm.
going to high school, where we have Tele Centers everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And for those that don't know, a Tele Center, that's what we call it, is a place you go and pay a little bit to make a phone call. For those that don't have a wired phone, or even some that have it, sometimes because of that bill, it's cheaper to go make a phone call from a telecenter than paying that phone bill from home. So you saw those everywhere. So every community has a bunch of them everywhere, right? And then when cell phones were introduced, obviously that business model just faded.
Mm-hmm.
So now, just to tell you this, we knew those were rampant. They were
Mm-hmm.
everywhere. I observed that every single one of those has been replaced by some sort of little hole in the wall that's painted yellow and black, the Western Union colors,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
MoneyGram,
Yep.
and all these money exchanges,
Money transfer. Yeah, money exchange
money
places.
transfer exchange places, bureau de change, like everywhere you go between Gambia and Senegal, the places that I visited when I went,
Mm-hmm.
just multiple, same street,
Mm-hmm.
you'll find five, six of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to tell you how much money comes from outside
Mm-hmm.
and how every family at home depends on
On
their
that.
family member that's outside the country that supplements on top of what they earn,
Mm-hmm.
and for the right reason too. Because
Yeah.
if I look at my family members and my friends and their salaries and their earnings versus the prices of things, the
The
standard
cost of
of
living,
living at
yeah.
home, the cost of living back home, it doesn't match.
At
So
all.
people need that sort of supplement in order to actually live, a respectable life, right?
Hmm.
And so we want to mention that we know that for sure. You're
Yeah.
helping your family because they can't depend on what they earn to live a way that you want them to live.
Hmm.
So that said, everything you mentioned about the other side of things, family members and friends that would ask for all this money to live a life that you can only dream of. You
Correct.
go to you go to visit, you go for a holiday, somebody that has never left the country, who their salary or their job is not paying them enough
Hmm.
to have that designer bag and shoes and
Hmm.
latest cell phone and like living that life that you're looking at them, borderline drooling. Man, I
Yep.
want to live like that, right?
Exactly.
So that's a fact. We
They're
have to
living. They're
mention
living
that
their best life for you, or off of you.
whilst you whilst you're working hard to send and you don't see your friends, and that's a lot of sacrifice. So I wanted to make sure we make that clear that we're not
Mhm.
insensitive to the realities of home. We
Oh,
know this,
we
and that's
are.
why you have to keep doing it, right?
Hmm.
But that takes me to this place where, how much do you think,
Hmm.
like, our governments contribute to, a lot of us living outside of the country to be in a better place to support at home? Because I mentioned salaries,
Hmm.
infrastructure,
Hmm.
cost of living,
Hmm.
So politically, you will think some of these African countries should be in a place where people will have a decency when they're working. But we can't even touch on service people like a
Oh,
policeman, a
jeez. Yeah.
teacher, like somebody in the army. How much they earn, how much this government pays them to live, and they can't live on that. Like, how much politically, how much is our continent affecting the fact that it's daughters and sons can't just pack up and leave and go home?
Oh, they're affecting it a lot, a whole lot, because they're the ones who hold the cards to most of these issues that we have. Unfortunately, we're still living with colonization, whether we choose to accept it or not, because everything that we do, we still are looking to the West for everything. You know what I'm saying? Government, they're still asking for loans or for donations, because again, we've they've acted as if we don't have the capability to do these things for ourselves, and we
Mhm.
continuously keep going back, and we continuously keep owing those countries, and that's why we basically owe everything to them. Number two, again, when it comes to poverty and power, because I always say it, because it's not like Africa is the richest continent on earth, basically. So why is
In
it
terms
that
of
we're still the
resources, yeah.
poorest? It doesn't
Hmm.
make sense. I always use Sierra Leone as an example. Sierra
Oh.
Leone has all the diamonds in the world, yet it is the poorest country in Africa. How?
Hmm.
How? Because when you have the government, there's money to be made in the country. You know what I'm saying? But whenever the right people, it's hard to get the right people in power to do the right thing. Most of them come in with the best of intentions, and then they get easily corrupted. You
Hmm.
know,
Sucked in,
Gambia is
to
the same
use.
thing. These
Yeah.
police officers and army and all these public servants that you named, all of them are not even getting paid livable wages. The
No,
teachers,
not
that's
livable.
why the school system has gone down the drain. If you cannot afford to pay for your kid to go to a private school, you're basically screwed, because these teachers are paid like next to nothing. Some of them, you can't even buy a bag of rice with the amount of money they're making. Their salary is per month. So how do you
Hmm.
now, and that's where the trickle down effect comes, because if the government is not subsidizing and paying these people livable wages, why are they even doing it? And that's why there's scarcity of teachers, there's scarcity of nurses and doctors, because or police officers, or the corruption is so much because there's no other way that these people can supplement their income without being basically corrupt and asking for bribes. So until we have a good government, and until we
Hmm.
have the people in the country to mindset has to change, because we are so accepting of everything. So it's going to take the government, but it's also going to take us to
Hmm.
work together. But I don't know, Mike. I don't know, because you see the people that are in our government. You and I mean, we talk about this, and it's just not Gambia. You see the
Yes.
people in the government, and it's just, for a fact they're not going to do much to help us. So, and that's why, when I keep talking about us having to go home and having to try, because I just feel like we are the only ones who can help us. Because if we're sitting there waiting for government to help
That,
us, it's not
that,
going to happen. So we have to take matters into our own hands.
and that's exactly why I wanted to mention this whole political scene and government right towards the end, because I know is to be continued, because I know for a fact that we've not even touched on the half of it, because that's a huge factor, like the instability at home, sometimes too, like the things that the government is responsible for, like infrastructure, like you mentioned healthcare in the beginning, all of these things that are something you borderline can't do anything about because it's in the hands of the government. If that is in the hand of somebody that you can't control or as much as you would want to,
Hmm.
then it makes it hard, and then you take the easy way out, which is, what, I can't deal with this, or I can't change it, so I'm gonna stay where it's easier.
Correct.
And this is why I will definitely have to have you for a part two, because most of what we talked about
Hmm.
is what we've observed, the problems that we see, but I want to make sure it's only fair that we talk about, because you're smart enough to have thought about these things, over the years. What are the possible solutions? What are the ways around? What are how can we affect change that will actually move the needle? Like
Yeah.
a net ahead, right? So
They'll
so
fight you
so
along the way, though. They will
yeah,
fight
it
you
will.
along the way, because our people, we're not, and that's just human nature. We're not receptive to change, especially,
Hmm.
in Gambia. The moment you get there and try to say something to people, they're like, "Yo, can you feed? Like, who? How dare you?" Basically, why you think because you lived in Europe, you got
Yeah.
to come here and tell us how to live our lives and how to do stuff. So again, it's a
But
double-edged sword. But at the same
yes.
time, it's going to take the strong-minded people who are not just going to take no for an answer, or people belittling or battering them and give up.
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
it's going to be a fight, and it's going to
Hmm.
be an uphill battle. But
Hmm.
for me, I feel like it's doable. We can't just throw in our towels and say, I give up. This country will never work, because that's
Hmm.
where we came from. That's where our families are from. That's where our grandparents are from. You want to wake up, like when you get old, you want to tell your children about, the life you've lived, what you've done. At
Yes.
least don't die knowing all you've done is work in the West. And and
for
and,
all
and
for these reasons, yes,
for all
yes,
these
yes.
different reasons, have something to give back. It's not going to be easy. We all know it's one of the most frustrating things to do. But I think if all of us can just have that fighting spirit, that we're not going to give up. And if we do it in droves, it's not going to take one person at a time. And
Definitely.
that's why a lot of people are failing. It has
Yes.
to take a lot of people at one given moment to show the type of impact that can happen when we all come together. So we have to
You,
stop fighting each other.
you're
Get
already
it
going
done.
into because it's not even fair to touch on all these solutions right now that
No,
we are
it's
winding
a
down.
lot.
So get yourself ready, for the sake of our people and our listeners, for a part two, because I know for a fact that we have thought about solutions, or ways to actually improve, and please put that together, expand on that, because next time I have you, we're going straight to, all these things that can be done to make things better.
Yeah.
Okay. Anna, you're multi-talented. You're in so many different things. You're working hard. You're setting up your business. It wouldn't be fair for me to have you here and you not tell the people what what's your latest side hustle? I'm gonna call it that.
The
I'm
latest
gonna
one, I
call it
know.
that because I love it. This is going to be more than a side hustle, and I speak it today, February what 11th.
Hmm.
That very very soon that will blow up. tell us, what do you do lately? What is bringing you all this joy and fun every
Amen.
weekend? Yeah.
Amen.
What is
Well,
it? Tell me.
I've always loved food. I've always had the
I
passion for
know.
food. And, you and I don't know, over the years, I don't know how many business plans and strategies we try to put together just
We
to,
gotta keep going.
to make
Yeah.
extra money. Because, like I said, living in this country, you just can't live on just your income because it's sometimes not just enough. So you have to find extra ways to make money. And
True.
after
Yeah.
searching high and low and coming up with every kind of business idea possible, I landed back with something that I truly, truly just
Truly
love,
love what
love,
you enjoy
love
doing. Yes.
in my
Yes.
heart. And it
That's
just
the
brings
best
me
kind.
so much joy. So I make desserts now for every kind of
Ooh.
events, for parties. And it's starting well. So actually I have some orders for a Valentine's Day coming up. So some chocolate covered strawberries for my lovers out there, and
Peak
you
time for
know,
you. Yes.
some
Yes.
good jazz. And I did some stuff in Gambia too when I went there for the holidays. I made,
I
a
saw the
whole,
pictures.
yeah, dessert order for like a dessert table for a whole wedding. And so it's coming together, and it's truly something that just brings me joy, and I make it with so much love. And I'm so big on quality and good tasting food. So if I'm not going to eat it, I'm not going to serve it to you. I don't even know how many times I've thrown a whole batch of something away because I feel like it didn't taste the way I
Because you
wanted
will
to
eat.
taste, just to make sure, it tastes as good as
I
I wanted to say. So
I
yeah,
expect
Anna's
nothing
Desserts and
less.
Events is the name. So
Eh, and I was about to go to that. I expect nothing less. So where can people find this? Like people that want to see what you do,
you
where
can
can they
Google
find it?
me on Anna's Desserts and Events. You find me on Google. You can
Yeah.
find me on Instagram. Again, Anna's Desserts and Events, all with an S. On Facebook, I'm there. I'm currently working on a website, so hopefully that'll be ready soon. And
Yeah, obviously, I will link all of that, and people can find you there and see it for themselves.
yes,
Sometimes the presentation of food alone can tell you, hey, what I'm looking at definitely has to taste good.
yeah,
Anna,
absolutely.
thank you for this time, and get ready for a part two because we have so much more to talk about.
I'll be
I
ready.
appreciate you. I love you, and I know you'll come back again because this is just the beginning. All
Thank
right,
you so
guys,
much for having
I
me. This
told
was
you it would
fun.
be a treat. All right, thank you so much. I
Thank you,
appreciate you.
guys. I love you,
All right,
baby.
bye bye
All
now.
right, bye.
All right.